The Boanmani Road lay like a 90-kilometer wound across Burkina Faso's eastern plains, a scar of cracked asphalt and rusted truck husks where for nearly a decade no engine dared rumble and no voice dared speak. For every convoy that entered vanished into a silence thicker than night, leaving behind only bones picked clean by sun and wind, and the whispers of locals who named it the Road of Silence because to utter the names of the lost was to invite the same fate. Yet in the capital Ouagadougou, in a sparse room lit by a single flickering bulb, President Ibrahim Traoré traced that scar on a map with a finger calloused by years of soldiering and declared that sovereignty began not in palaces but on open roads, that if a people could not move, they could not breathe. And so, on October 12, 2025, at the first pale breath of dawn, the Rapid Intervention Battalion BIR-19 assembled on the trembling plains of Serba, 100 trucks heavy with grain, fuel, medicine, and the fragile pulse of a nation, their engines coughing to life like a low growl that made the desert itself shiver. At the front walked Captain Lynx, a man carved from dust and discipline, his gloved hands brushing each truck as he passed, murmuring, "Stay alert, every shadow is a question. Every question can kill," while behind him, young Private Issa clutched a wooden amulet from his mother and tried to still the tremor in his knees, and grizzled Sergeant Burema spat into the red earth and told the boy the road would learn their rhythm. They rolled at 25 kilometers an hour, a steel serpent sliding through brittle grass, drones humming overhead like iron hawks, and at the 10th kilometer, a pile of rocks at a bend froze the column, engines dying to silence. Dust settling like a held breath while engineers Zara and Drabo swept metal detectors inches above the dirt until a soft beep confirmed the whisper of death, an IED, and a ground drone crawled forward, camera blinking, detonating the trap in a bloom of smoke that left the air heavier than before. 5 times the earth tried to swallow them, 5 times the engineers stole life back, and inside the trucks sweat-carved rivers through dust-caked faces. Prayers rose in whispers, and the road seemed to watch with malevolent patience. At noon, beneath a sun that burned through uniforms to the bone, they found a broken civilian truck smoking by the roadside. A father gaunt with exhaustion, a mother clutching a toddler, 2 barefoot children waving a white cloth, stranded 3 days in the heat. And against protocol, Lynx stepped down alone, knelt to the mother's terrified eyes, and said simply, "No one stays behind." Cables were fastened. The convoy pulled the wreck 2 kilometers into its heart, and for a moment, soldier and civilian were only people reaching for light. Late afternoon brought 2 silhouettes on a ridge, hearts quickening, rifles locked, until the figures emerged as villagers balancing water jugs, trembling hands raised, whispering that the gunmen had fled days ago. Fearing the iron beasts, and for the first time, soldiers smiled, tasting the sweet shift of fear. Dusk found them in a dry riverbed, engines cooling, men cleaning rifles under fading light while insects hummed, and Private Issa murmured he thought death would have found them by now, only for Burema to reply that maybe death was afraid tonight, unaware the hardest trial waited in darkness. Night dropped like a curtain of stone, headlights off, rifles on knees, Lynx walking the perimeter listening for the absence of sound, telling a trembling sentry to breathe slow because fear was loud and the enemy listened, until faint lights flickered beyond the hills and radio fragments hissed in an alien dialect, a drone rising to reveal a dozen armed heat signatures closing fast. Positions formed in seconds, machine guns rotating, grenadiers crouching, snipers scoping, and when the first tracer round streaked like a falling star, the desert erupted into 17 minutes of thunder, attackers darting between dunes, Lynx's calm voice anchoring chaos. Left flank, keep spacing. Don't waste rounds, until a grenade sprayed shrapnel near a supply truck and he sprinted, dragging a wounded man to safety, fire painting his unflinching face. Silence returned heavier than gunfire, smoke mingling with diesel and gunpowder, status reports confirming no casualties, and under a pale moon, Lynx walked the ridge to find young bodies clutching rusted rifles and faded armbands, murmuring they were not soldiers but warnings.
returning to his men exhausted yet unbroken to declare that tonight they stood their ground, and tomorrow the road must live. In Ouagadougou, Traore received the message, convoy engaged, no losses, closed his eyes and whispered, "May their courage light the rest of Burkina Faso." While on the plains, dawn bled gold across twisted metal and quiet faces, engines rumbling once more, the convoy rolling toward villages waiting to breathe again. Dawn painted Serba in gold and crimson, the men of BAR 19 stirring among trucks caked with the night's smoke, their eyes swollen but alive with a silence no longer of fear but gratitude. Captain Lynx atop his vehicle watching light fall across discarded shells and the faces of men who had learned endurance, softly ordering form up as engines coughed dust into the new day, the convoy moving slower now as if the earth eased beneath their wheels. Private Issa feeling the road's pulse and asking Burema if it was alive, earning a grin that it was learning their rhythm. Within miles they reached a cluster of mud walls half buried in sand, doors creaking open to children peeking hesitantly, women covering faces, until a barefoot boy of 10 stepped forward clutching a carved wooden truck, others following to wave, a soldier whispering over radio that the road lived again. Lynx halting the column to approach an elder trembling by a broken well who said they thought the state forgot them, only for Lynx to remove his helmet and reply they never forgot. They just had to find their way back. Engineers clanging tools for an hour until water burst clear and cold, villagers erupting in song, basins filling, children splashing, the elder weeping over wet earth while a soldier murmured the country was breathing again. Word traveled faster than engines. Village to village the news spread that the convoy made it. The soldiers came back. The road was open, and by late afternoon Mani's streets electrified with people waving scraps of cloth, mothers kneeling in tears, old men saluting in silence. The frail mayor repeating the state was forgotten until Lynx declared the state was here and the road theirs again. Soldiers unloading grain, fuel, medicine, diesel scent mingling with hope, while in the capital Traore received confirmation the corridor was secured. Radio stations echoing the road lives, the nation breathes. That night, soldiers camped on Mani's outskirts amid lantern glow and children's laughter. Lynx on his truck's hood beneath stars when young Compaoré admitted he never thought they'd make it, earning Lynx's faint smile that was why they did. And across West Africa, the story swept to radios in Bamako, broadcasts in Niamey, newspapers in Washington, defense ministers praising audacity, the African Union declaring the path to peace ran through hearts and roads. A retired colonel writing control of the road was control of destiny. Veterans nodding in recognition of weary courage to reconnect, not conquer. Yet unease stirred. If Burkina Faso succeeded without foreign oversight, what of old dependencies? While ordinary Africans celebrated loudly, Traoré addressing the nation with humble words that they proved nothing to the world but to themselves they could stand. Diasporas in Paris and New York sharing convoy images captioned, "Africa is moving." And for the first time in decades, the world moved with respect, not pity. Weeks later, new convoys formed toward Djibo, Dori, Mali's scarred borders, the national corridor strategy born. Train, move, reclaim, repeat. Lynx teaching recruits discipline without fear, strength without arrogance, service without reward. Villages seeing markets reopen, laughter replace gunfire. Mani's well never running dry, children saying water ran because someone dared to drive. Traoré warning the enemy might return, but courage, unity, dignity must never be lost. His voice bouncing between villages, drivers, farmers, children walking to reopen schools. The Boanmani road no longer slept. Craters blooming into markets, silence into engine song. Scars proof a nation bled, survived, healed. Lynx telling a journalist before leaving Mani they came not to fight but to return faith. Words becoming a prayer that faith returns on wheels. Sovereignty reclaimed one road at a time. From Ghana's shores to Niger's mountains, hearts answering Amen. Yet one question lingering in the dust. If one convoy changed a province, how many roads to rebuild a nation? And when the next storm rose darker than before,
Would courage suffice? The image fades on a road stretching to horizon, sun bleeding gold into earth, engines humming softly in the distance, waiting, for another road is waiting to be reborn.